Good morning, everyone, and welcome You Can't Pour from an Empty Cup Self-Care for Caregivers. We are excited to have today Stacia Stribling and Dr. Monique Lilakos. Dr. Lilakos is a mother of two children and a grandmother to three children, a 19-year-old grandson from whom she raised, and two granddaughters, 11 and 7. Dr. Monique is a licensed clinical social worker with over 26 years of experience. She is retired from the federal government and has her private practice. Dr. Monique works with individuals across the lifespan and focus on adolescents, young adults, and families. Many of her clients have achieved great success in managing life's challenges. Dr. Monique is particularly sensitive to clients facing issues related to mental health, finding resources, anxiety, depression, trauma, and family wellness. Her approach is rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, trauma-focused therapy, attachment theory, and family systems theory, which are evidence-based approaches to treatment that focus on helping clients holistically, mind, body, soul, and spirit. And now we'll turn it up to Stacia and to Dr. Monique.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this gorgeous Friday morning. I am actually Stacia Stribling, not Kelly Henderson. For some reason in webinar, it's not allowing me to change my name. But I am the Deputy Director of Formed Families Forward. And before Dr. Monique gets started, I just want to give you a little bit of information about our organization if you are, this is the first time you're hearing of us. So I'm dropping into the chat real quick some links that are related to what I'm going to be talking about in these slides. So we are Formed Families Forward. We are a family-led resource center in Northern Virginia, and we support foster, adoptive, and kinship families who are raising children, youth, and young adults with specialized needs. And we do this through a number of avenues. We offer free trainings, collaborating with our community partners, such as Fairfax County Public Schools, and we do free consultations to families. So if in listening to this, you're realizing I could use some one-on-one help, please just reach out to us through our website, and we will set up a Zoom, in-person, phone call, whatever you prefer. We also host numerous events throughout the year. We have a resource directory on our page. So if you're looking specifically for some resources, perhaps a mental health professional, you can go to our resource page and search by region, by insurance, whether they take insurance or Medicaid, things like that. We also offer some peer support groups and some youth support groups. I'm going to talk a little bit about those in a bit, and have an online self-paced learning platform. And I will share that as well. And finally, we are the family partner to the Virginia Tiered Systems of Supports, VTSS, or you may know it as MTSS, which is a project with the Virginia Department of Education. And we are the voice of family engagement in that project. So some upcoming events. The first one I want to talk about is our Spring Forward Family Fun Day. This is specifically for foster, adoptive, and kinship families. It is going to be held Saturday, April 18th. From 8:30 to 2 in Manassas at the GMU Science and Tech Campus. It is for the whole family, so we have programming for youth of different ages, and while the parents, caregivers are engaged in a keynote address by Melissa Corkum, and then some breakout sessions to talk about some issues and to be connecting with their families and finding support through that avenue. It's going to be a fantastic event. There are scholarships for the youth. This is one of the only events we have that has a cost to it, but we will reimburse you when you show up that day for the youth tickets. Form Families Together is our caregiver support group, and it's for foster, adoptive, and kinship caregivers. We meet twice a month, virtually on the first Sunday of each month, and in person the third Wednesday. And that in person is on site in our office in Fairfax City. The hours are up there. There's a link in the chat if you're interested in joining that group, and you do not need to commit to both virtual and in person. If virtual is the only one that works for you, that is perfectly fine as well. Another support group we run is a kinship specific support group. This is generously funded through Fairfax County, and it also meets twice a month, once virtually and once in person. The in person is at one of our community centers in the county, and we kind of rotate through those. The difference with this support group is that we do offer childcare for those in person, and we do provide dinner on that evening. So the link is in the chat if you're interested in joining that group. We also right now have a youth support group going on, Stronger Together Life Skills Training class. We are in the midst of the 8-week session, but it's never too late to join us on this journey. So if you have or know a child in grades 6 through 9 who would be interested in doing some life skills training, we meet weekly on Tuesdays from 5:30 to 7 in our Fairfax office, and we do provide dinner for that. So in case you know anyone interested in that opportunity. And we do have an upcoming webinar that we are hosting on Monday, March 16th called What Families Need to Know About the School Discipline Process. We're going to be joined by Joan Proper, and she will be giving some really fantastic information. So the link to register for that is also in the chat. And finally, our Learning Your Way is online learning platform is free of charge, and it is go at your own pace. So you can register for this and you'll get a login to go to the site. We've got 8 courses available, and those are the topics. The newest one we have added this year is FBAs and BIPs. If you're not familiar with those are functional behavior analysis and behavior intervention plans. Some really great information. You can earn a certificate of completion when you have done those. All right. That is it from me. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to the esteemed Dr. Monique Lalakos, and she will take it away.
Oh, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I am Dr. Monique Lalakos. You're going to be hearing a little bit about me and my story as I talk about self-care for caregivers. I am a caregiver, as you heard. I'm a mother, grandmother, raised my grandson. I also sit on the board of Form Families Forward. So you're probably going to hear some plugs about Form Families Forward from me as I talk about self-care and different ways that we can build in self-care. Before I ask to go to the next slide, I would be remiss if I didn't say I am a very sensitive person, and I was so moved today by the interpreters, that this is being interpreted in several different languages. I love that, Fairfax County, and I am excited about being here today, and I hope you all are too. Next slide. Okay, so I talked a little bit about who I am. You all heard about who I am. Grandmother, mother, caregiver. I have my own private practice. I work with a lot of challenging clients, and in fact, I work with a lot of foster, adoptive, and kinship families, and I have over the course of my career. I have a background working with military families and the federal government. As you will hear throughout this presentation, I'm very passionate about not just the work that I do. I'm very passionate about being a caregiver. One thing I didn't mention in the first slide is that I also did my dissertation, which is my research study, on the implication of grandparent caregivers raising grandchildren on the autism spectrum. My grandson, who I've raised, is on the autism spectrum. He also struggles with some other mental health challenges, PTSD, depression, anxiety, like really debilitating anxiety. And again, you're going to hear more about that as we go through the presentation. So why am I attending a self-care presentation? I'm attending because of all the things that I just mentioned. And I really do believe as caregivers, we have to build in self-care for ourselves. And sometimes I know we struggle with it, and we'll talk more about that. as we go through the presentation, and we'll also talk a lot about how do we make time for caregiving. What would I like to get out of this presentation? I would like for you all, and you have no idea how passionate I am about you all getting at least something out of this presentation. If you can walk away and you can say, hey, I didn't think about it that way, or hey, that affirmed what I already do, or whatever it is, please, I hope that you can take something away from this presentation. Next slide. All right, so these are some of the goals that we have for today. Hopefully, I'm going to provide some information for caregivers. We're going to help increase and enhance awareness of self-care, right? Identify the benefits of self-care and self-regulation for communicating and problem solving with school and other community partners. I know as caregivers, that is so crucial, that we help our community partners and our schools understand that not only do we need self-care, so do our kiddos, the kids that we're raising. And I know that as caregivers, we have a lot of interaction with community partners. I hope to provide some different types of self-care examples. Some of them you all will probably say, I do that, or I didn't think of that, or is that really self-care? And basically, I'm hoping that that again we can take away some different types of self-care examples, and then I hope to provide a platform for all the caregivers that are here and the people that are here to connect. And how do I plan on doing that? Well, I actually tweaked this presentation a little bit from other times that I've presented this presentation. Some of the feedback that I've gotten is, I think that some of the caregivers and the like, they wanted for me and other people to hear their voices. So the chat is open, and there Stacey will be going back and forth, checking the chat from time to time. I provided some activities, just little ones, so that we can connect throughout the presentation. So it's just not me hearing myself talk. And towards the end, I've provided a lot more time towards the end, hopefully, for Q&A and for maybe people to share a little bit of their life or their story or how they connected with the material that was presented today. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this presentation evolves as we go through it. Thanks. Next slide. Okay. So this picture, I told you that I did my dissertation. I actually found it when I defended my dissertation. And part of it I connected with because of the journey that I went through with my dissertation. It was a parallel process for me. Basically, I am a caregiver and I am raising a child on the autism spectrum and with some other mental health challenges. And my dissertation was the implication of grandparent caregivers who are raising children with autism. The bottom line is, going through a dissertation, I know a lot of people are like, wow, it's a journey, it's hard. It is challenging at best. It's even probably more challenging for those of us that are raising children with special needs, so on and so forth. A lot of my writing I did between, let's say, 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., and I still had to get up and go to work and get him together for school. And sometimes, particularly when he was younger, it was harrowing trying to get this child on a bus. So this picture kind of reminds me of the ups and downs, the ins and outs that me and my grandson Dennis have gone throughout life. I love him. I'm sure that we all love our kids. A lot of times it was very hard for me, and I did feel like I was like kind of pushing through weeds and branches and snow and hiking up hills, and it has been a journey. And the interesting thing is he's 19, and it does continue to be a journey, as it is for many of us that are caregiving. It doesn't stop at a certain age. We're going to be parents, grandparents for the rest of our lives, at least. And I love this picture because in the midst of the journey of some of the ups and downs, there was so much love that I had for this young man and so much love that he has for me. And it, to me, depicted a lot of what we went through and how we were still able to love on each other. And yes, I'm getting emotional because we went through a lot. Next slide. All right. So this is the picture of me and my grandson. He's going to be 20 on Monday. And I added this picture this time. This is the first time I've added it because I realized throughout this presentation, I do build in a lot of stories about me and Dennis and autism and mental health challenges and all these other things. And I'm a visual person. So I know a lot of times people can walk away with, gosh, I wonder what that kid looks like today. Well, this is what he looks like. Very handsome young man, really smart. He is having some challenges right now as he's in community college trying to work through and navigate. He wants to do pre-med and he's open to wherever the universe leads him. And this is one of our happier times together. I got this idea. I wish I could say it was my idea. I got this idea from one of the places that I use for self-care, which is my church. And whenever there's a visiting pastor, they always kind of show a picture of their family so that you can get a sense of who their family is. And a lot of times they tend to build their family into their church presentation. And because so much of my presentation is about my life with Dennis, in fact, I may not even have this level of presentation without my life with Dennis. I thought it was important for me to share Dennis with you all. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to kick off this presentation with a little interactive exercise. And I think for me, it's important. This is one of the newer slides that I added, by the way. I always wonder, who are the adoptive caregivers in the room? Who are the foster caregivers in the room? And who are the kinship caregivers in the room? And so we're going to take a moment right now. And I know Stacia is doing her magic behind the scenes and she's creating a poll for you all. So I'd really like for you all to, I think you can scan the barcode and maybe answer the poll. And while we're waiting for some of the results, I was thinking after I created this slide that this is a tricky question. So answer whatever way you want. I think there's only an opportunity for you to put yourself in one category. However, I do know that there may be some of us that are adoptive and foster caregivers or adoptive, foster, and kinship caregivers, right? So, yeah, I'm trying to see. All right. So how many caregivers are attending? So kinship caregivers, hands down, are the largest attendees. And then we have adoptive caregivers and some foster caregivers. All right. Well, that, first of all, thank you all for attending. And I do appreciate the kinship caregivers. We, as caregivers, we each sit in very unique seats. And like I was saying before, as far as being a foster caregiver or an adoptive caregiver, I also know that many kinship caregivers were also fostering or they may have ended up adopting. So you could be all three, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know. Stacia, are we still getting responses or how are we doing?
I think that may have covered everybody.
That may have covered everybody. So we know who's in the room, right? And again, thank you all for attending this. All right, next slide. So why are we talking about caregivers and perhaps self-care for caregivers? Well, part of it is the previous slide that we just saw. We're caregiving in a lot of different ways. I love statistics because it puts real kind of numbers on how many of us are here in the United States, right? These are United States numbers. I know that there are tons of other caregivers in other parts of the world. And here in the United States, there's approximately 75,000 to 100,000 children that are adopted in the United States, which means that if there's 75 to 100,000 children that are adopted, who's adopting them? Caregivers, right? And there's approximately 391,000 children that are in foster care homes in the United States. Now, here's the thing. When I was trying to find a more specific statistic for this number, because I know that when they say foster care homes, they're also talking about maybe group homes and the like, where there are still people that are caregiving in a certain way. And then they're also combining that number with people that are fostering kids in their home, just regular families. So either way, these are huge numbers that we're looking at of children that are being cared for by caregivers. And again, we're going to dive in a little bit with what goes on with these caregivers and why are we talking about self-care? Next slide. So we talked about foster care and adoptive caregivers. And then here in the United States, there are also several caregivers that are raising children from family members and friends in the United States. Approximately 2.65 million children in the United States are being raised by a family member or family friend. These family members and family friends, we refer to them as kinship caregivers, right? And as we saw from the little poll that we did, there's a ton of us out there, man, that are raising other people's kids, right? And so kinship caregivers, sometimes people think that they're only family members. They could be relatives, they could be grandparents, great grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, godparents. They can also be close friends. There are a number of people that are helping to raise friends, children that live right next door to them, or other things like that, providing different levels of care. Kinship caregivers are providing a lot of support for families, as are adoptive and foster parents. And because we're providing so many levels of support, I think that sometimes the supports that we provide, we can sometimes maybe forget to provide those levels of support for us. Next slide. So kinship, foster, and adoptive caregivers often face significant challenges raising children, such as children's ability to form an attachment. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about attachment specific after this slide, because another slide that I built in recently, because I felt like sometimes we throw around words and people are like, well, what is attachment? What do we mean by that? And how does that fit in? So children's attachment, physical and mental disabilities, financial challenges that we may be dealing with, stress, which is part of our everyday, right? Educational challenges with the children that we're raising, special needs challenges, and feelings of loss due to issues related to the biological parent. I threw that statement in there because I would be remiss if I didn't say that as a kinship caregiver, and I'm sure that adoptive families, foster families have very similar experiences. Sometimes we may be, sometimes the biological parent may still be somewhat involved. Like for me, my daughter's always going to be my daughter who gave birth to my grandson. And there were a lot of different challenges there. There were also a lot of challenges regarding attachment. When I think about some of the things that my grandson and I have gone through in reference to what's going on with his mom and how he shows up in the world. And even though I may be the best caregiver ever, at least I think I am, there are still areas where I can't provide everything for him. Like I can't help him understand why he had to be raised by his grandma, and I can't fill that void that he has from not having his mom in his life the way that he would like to, or his dad in his life at all. Right. So there are just so many different challenges that we go through day to day. And I think that it's important that we think about those things and that is mentioned. Caregivers may have challenges accessing community supports for themselves and the children that they're raising. They may have challenges connecting with mental health services, school supports, community, financial supports, medical services. We'll unpack that a little bit more as we go through the presentation. Next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, I said I wanted to unpack attachment a little bit more, right? And so this is not cut and dry, like how one develops attachment. However, I think it's good for us to just have a basic understanding of attachment and maybe some attachment disorders that we may see in some of our kids, right? Children who grow up having their needs met and feeling secure and knowing that they're loved, seen, and understood. Oftentimes we say that they have developed a secure attachment. Does that mean that their lives are perfect and that it's sunshine, rainbows, and waterfalls? No. What it means is that they may just feel a little bit more secure in their skin, right? Children who grow up with inconsistent or unreliable caregivers and may have lived with a fear of abandonment and a sense that their care was conditional. Sometimes we identify these children as children that may have an anxious attachment, right? Children who grow up needing to meet their own needs independently and get the message that no one is available or interested in meeting their needs. A lot of times these children may develop an avoidant attachment. And children that grow up around a lot of chaos, sometimes dangerous, caregivers did not meet their needs in that environment. These kids may grow up with a disorganized attachment. Now, as I'm talking about attachment, I really do want you all to think about, what are some of the things that my child has grown up with. And the thing that I also wanted to mention here is, so we're talking about how children grow up and we're talking about how the caregiver engages. If you're an anxious, avoidant, disorganized caregiver, you might be transferring that to your child. Here's the other thing. Mental health challenges can also impact a child's ability to develop a secure attachment. And not only that, raising someone else's kids can also, cause some of these attachment disorders that develop. And sometimes as caregivers, because we might be raising somebody else's kids, we don't always understand a child's attachment and why they may not be able to connect with us in the manner in which we would like for them to connect with us. And I think that attachment is so important to talk about, because when children do develop some more unhealthy attachment, like a more anxious or avoidant or a disorganized style, and the caregiver is like pouring into this child and may not understand some of the behind the scenes attachment stuff that's going on with the child. I think oftentimes caregivers can walk away feeling like, what's wrong with me, right? Why can't I help this child the way that I would love to help this child? Next slide. So again, nice segue into, if a child has special needs, caregivers may be juggling appointments with mental health providers, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists, psychiatrists, asthma specialists, ophthalmologists, allergists, and other professionals. So, just going back to the attachment slide, all of these things can impact how our children are connecting and attaching with us. For Dennis, I raised him since he's around 9 months old. And I showed the picture of Dennis because Dennis was not only diagnosed with autism, by the way, he wasn't diagnosed with autism until he was around 6. He was nonverbal for almost the first 4 years of his life. And I think that trying to find the right mental health treatment, and I'm a therapist, I'm a clinician, right? And I have a lot of resources, and I know how to rally in the resources. And it was still very challenging for me to find the right resources for my grandson about 20 years ago, right? Um, we were involved in earlier intervention, which was the beginning of our mental health journey. Dennis had physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, a behaviorist. Um, and then when he aged out of early intervention, he went on to work with intensive in-home therapy. We were in the New York area at the time, and they provided, it was a program called ICAPS that provided a lot of in-home work with me and Dennis, as well as in the community work with me and Dennis. So it was a blessing to have the services. It just seemed like as the more he aged, the more he needed, and trying to rally in all the different resources was challenging for me. And then like having a kid that was nonverbal, I was terrified that he was not going to be able to speak, and that would just be another level of issue that we would be challenged with. What I will say is, I noticed from early on with him that because of his inability to speak, it did create a lot of underlying anxiety. And having autism, there's a lot of anxiety attached to that. And then he's also diagnosed with ADHD. There's a lot of anxiety attached to this. So this kid is sometimes a walking ball of anxiety, even to this day, right? Um, Finding the right resources for him, finding the right resources for me was really challenging, right? Ongoing appointments and emergencies can keep caregivers so busy that attending to their feelings and their needs, it could be challenging for us. We put ourselves on hold. When I was getting all the services in for Dennis, getting an IEP developed for him, which was another challenging thing. Everything was a challenge, right? Um, I remember there was one point in our home, I think he was maybe about 7 at this point, where every day of the week we had either therapy on the outside or we had somebody in our home, like a behaviorist in the home, or um, he had mentors and other people that were working with him, and we had some speech and occupational therapists that continued to work with him throughout the year. And I just remember feeling like, is this going to be my life for the rest of my life? Like 7 days a week of Dennis and trying to make sure that he's thriving in life. It was challenging. Next slide. All right. So I think that I may have made a case for why we're talking about caregivers and self-care. I would love to hear a little bit more about your stories too. And you heard about my story. Self-care is crucial for caregivers. The physical and emotional toll of caring for children, particularly children who may have experienced trauma, it can be overwhelming, right? And in the background, yes, we were dealing with trauma in addition to all the other things. Additionally, the blame that children can project onto their caregivers because they're hurt by their situation may be draining for caregivers. Children may express feelings of loss, hurt, anger, and despair. Dennis projected all of that, and he was hurting a lot, and it's not like he and I didn't talk about all the things that we were capable of talking about. We did family therapy. We did, by the way, I'm a huge component of therapy, and you're going to hear that from me because that is part of my self-care. I think that with all the things that we put in place from the time that he was like maybe around 18 months old to today, there were still a lot of challenges, feelings, hurt feelings, anger, resentment, despair. And there were things that were on the outside too, school, making friends, inability to make friends, all these things that bubbled up with Dennis. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that when he was 17 years old, he did end up having a suicide attempt because of all the struggles that he was going through. And that, of course, had a huge impact on me as his caregiver, who had been pouring into him my entire life since he was born. Next slide. Some caregivers may be challenged with trying to understand the complexities of raising a child who has been displaced from their parents. I was one of those caregivers. I still am, because the complexities haven't stopped. We've tried to put things in place to support to the best of our ability, and it's still very complex. Caregivers may be challenged with considering their child's unique needs while managing their own lives. That was me. That is me. Next slide. So I talked a lot about me and Dennis and things that we went through. And I'm going to be honest, I talked through whether or not I wanted to mention the suicide attempt that he had, not because I didn't want to share it with people, mainly because people don't want to hear about stuff like that happens. And yes, these things can happen, right? They can even happen to me, right? And so to me, one of the things that I've learned over life is I can try to be there to the best of my ability for Dennis and other people, my clients, other people, right? And it starts with me. I need to take care of me first. So I have to start thinking about, well, what can self-care be for me, even if it's a little bit of self-care? What is that going to look like for me, right? So self-care can be any one of these things. It can be asking for help. I had no problem asking for help. I still have no problem asking for help, by the way. It could be spending time alone. To be perfectly honest, I'm a therapist. Spend a lot of time with people, spend a lot of time with Dennis. Honestly, I spend a lot of time with friends and the like too, which is another piece of self-care. And it still, can cause me to feel like, what, I just want to be alone, right? So for me, what does spending time alone look like? In the morning, I always carve out time to just pray and talk to God in the morning and and have that jumping off place, right? Not trying to put religion on anybody or anything else like that. I'm just talking about me, what I need, right? So it could be spending time alone. It could definitely be putting myself first. I spent a lot of time putting others' needs first, putting Dennis's needs first. I need to put myself first because I can't pour from an empty cup. Asking for what you need. I will ask for what I need, right? Even last night, Kelly Henderson, oh, Stacia was able to change her name. I had a quick chat with her because I was having some feelings about certain things and I asked her for some things and she was supportive, right? I think that those things are so important. These are little things that we can do to self-care, setting boundaries with people. People are like, how is setting boundaries helpful? Setting boundaries is helpful because if we overstep our own boundaries, we're going to feel like crap. Staying at home, saying no, forgiving yourself, taking a step back. I'm going to circle back to forgiving yourself because the bottom line is when you have a child that you poured into your whole life that ends up so overwhelmed with life that they try to take their own life, it is sometimes hard to forgive yourself. There was a lot of, what did I miss? What could I have done better? Where did I go wrong? Right? And it wasn't about me. It was about Dennis struggling with things internally that I just couldn't help him with. Next slide. So I want to take some time right now for you all to think about what can self-care be for you? What does it look like for you? Something simple, something big if you want. So I hope you all are taking the poll in one word or a short phrase. Help me understand what can self-care be for you. Yeah, scarce appreciation. Love it. Varied. True. Mandatory. I love it. So true. Any other thoughts? There we go. I like this word cloud. It was Stacia's idea. Healing, right? Practiced. Love it. Art. Oh, that's stopping. I love that. Art and stopping. Practice, healing, fitness. Trying to figure out the ones that I didn't say. Appreciation, healing, mandatory, running. Love it. Exercise, moving your body. Yes. Fitness. Oh my God, breath. So important. So important. I take time to breathe every morning. Flying. I like that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. TV. Love it. Dancing. Yes. Exercise, bike. I think I got them all. Stopping, mandatory, TV, dancing, breath, practice, varied fitness, appreciation, exercise, bike, flying, art, comedy shows, running, healing, scarce, stopping. Okay. All right. Thank you all for sharing. That's wonderful. Beautiful word cloud. Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm going to go through some barriers to self-care. I'm keeping an eye on time. Don't worry, guys. And I think that we'd be remiss if we don't mention barriers, right? Caregivers often we're often told to take care of ourselves, right? And it can be frustrating when people are like, "Oh, Monique, you got to take care of yourself," you know. Um, Usually, when somebody casually tells a caregiver to take care of themselves, the caregiver may have feelings about that. Like, you think I'm not trying to take care of myself? Of course, I'm trying to take care of myself. And I know that people are trying to come from a good place. I know that people care about us. I know that I mean, sometimes people look at my life and the busyness of my life, and my therapist often says, I think he says I'm always juggling plates. That's that's the way that he puts it. And then if I say I added something to my life, he's like, "Ah, you added another plate to the juggle," you know. And I know he means well, and I know that he cares about me, and he also understands. He's not like trying to shame me in any way or anything else. I think that he always wants to keep me aware of, some sort of balance, right? So it's easy for people to say to us, take care of yourself, or don't add another plate, Monique, you know, and it can be challenging for us to like do the little things. And that's why that word cloud is so important. I hope people take some stuff away from that and, think about what self-care can be, because I want to keep it simple, right? Many caregivers are natural caregivers. We have partners, children, jobs, And we may even have aging parents who are all requiring attention from us. Most days, the amount of energy that we devote to other people's needs, it far exceeds any energy directed to our own needs. Right? Next slide. Many caregivers want to be there for their families. We may be holding down a full-time job, volunteering at our children's school, delivering a mail to a sick friend, helping out at church, and serving on task force that address children's needs. So we work longer and we try harder to meet the needs of many people, including ourselves. And some caregivers may not know what would help them. They know something's missing and can't put their finger on what might make them feel a little bit better. And, I actually added some of these things because one thing that I didn't mention is even though my mom is now in a long-term care facility and she gets great care and everything else, as one of her caregivers, I handle her finances and everything else. I also um, want to see my mom and desire to see my mom, and she's an hour and a half away from me. And I have to also build that into my week as well to go and see her, particularly. She suffered a stroke just about a month or so ago, and she's recovering from that, and she needs family to support her and talk with her and try to get her speech back and so on and so forth. So again, I know the challenges of being a caregiver and how we give and clients and everywhere, and it is sometimes challenging to build in a self-care routine. Many caregivers believe they somehow shouldn't need support, which is unfortunate. Like they should be doing it all, and none of us can do it all. We all need support. We all need people. We all need people's things. Next slide. So I love this slide. Fun fact, I don't know if Stacia even knows this about me. Many, many years ago, I was a flight attendant in my early 20s while I was putting myself through school. And yes, I was a mom. Yes, I know it's crazy. All these things. Um, I know on a plane we often hear if the cabin loses pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the overhead bin. And the flight attendant always says, please put the mask over yourself before you try to help somebody else. And I think we all know why she says that, because you can't help anybody if you lose oxygen. So as caregivers, we need to think about how do we put that oxygen mask over our face first? What are some of the little things that we can do so that we can take care of all the other things and people that we are connected to in life? Next slide. Research shows that to overcome social, mental, and emotional barriers to self-care, caregivers must first come to understand the importance of taking care of themselves. And how do we do this? We may want to build a self-care into our daily routine. Like I said earlier, I start my day in prayer. I have a vision board that I look at and meditate over and other things that I want to bring into my life. Believe that you're worth taking care of. Believe that happiness and well-being are essential for good parenting, right? So your happiness and your well-being, taking care of you first, doing the running, the exercising, the breathing, the walking, whatever it was on that word cloud that we talked about, the taking time for yourself, the setting boundaries, the saying no, all of those things are important. Next slide. Yeah. So here are some other areas of self-care and examples of self-care, just little things that I wanted to share with you all as we begin to wrap up this presentation. I wanted to talk a little bit about areas of self-care, and then I'm hoping to bring you all through a brief exercise, and then we're going to open up for some Q&A, right? So when I think about self-care, I do think about um, all of these different areas, personal areas, space areas, financial work, because all of those things involve some level of self-care. Um, with work, we might want to think about time management and having a healthy workspace because that's going to help us be in a better frame of mind. With financial, we may want to think about how are we budgeting the money that we're bringing in and our savings and other things. And with personal space, we may want to think about our own safety and our healthy living and again, an organized space, right? For work, for other areas. I know my grandson says that he believes I have OCD because I am very neat and tidy. I love my home immaculate. I know many of us do. and it, honestly, a disorganized space disorganizes me, right? Hobbies. What kind of hobbies do I build into my life? Exercise. Somebody mentioned exercise. Moving our bodies is one of the most important things that we can do. Get our blood flowing. It doesn't have to be, we could run or we could walk. Um, we could do other things we can dance. I saw somebody say dance. Loved that. Anything to move our bodies, to get that blood flowing, helps to energize us, right? Knowing ourselves, knowing who we are, and honoring ourselves, whoever we are. These are all important examples and areas of self-care that I try to look at. Some of the things that I try to engage in and that I share a lot with my clients is are kind of thinking about on a day-to-day basis, how do I build in support? Well, I'm their therapist, so they're talking to their therapist. Therapy is very important to me. I mentioned that earlier. I have a therapist. As a therapist, I think every therapist should have a therapist. Personally, I think everybody should have a therapist. That's just me. You don't have to. You can take that or leave it. It's up to you. I think the great thing about therapy though is that you have somebody that knows you in a way that nobody else knows you because you're going to be talking to them about things probably that you don't really talk to other people about on a day-to-day basis. Ups, downs, good, bad, sad, struggles. My therapist kind of serves two ways for me. He's there for me personally. He and I talk through cases too sometimes that might be a little bit more challenging. Um, Adoptive and foster families and kidship families are made up of a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities. And working with the whole family, I am a family therapist, and not everybody works with the whole family. That can get a little complicated, and like keeping boundaries and everything else like that can be a little complicated. So I think it's always good to have somebody else to bounce things off of. I When I was in a work environment, I had colleagues, because I'm in private practice, I build that in with other professionals. Journaling and making a gratitude list. I think if we can look at the good things in life, it helps us to not sink too deeply into some of the challenges that might be going on in life. Journaling is a good way to get things out. What I talk to my clients a lot about is like just use it to dump. Don't try to organize your thoughts in a journal. If you want to, that's fine. I think that complicates things for people. I think just sometimes doing a brain dump in a journal just to get it out is so important. And I know it's important for me as well. I do journal. Meditating, I told you that I wake up, spend some time meditating. I spend some time in prayer. I do use sound sometimes I don't. I think that centers me for the day. It centered me for today, being able to talk to my higher power, who I call God, about this presentation and what I wanted to leave with you all today, and some of the feelings that I'm having about that, I hope it comes out right. I hope it's connected to people. I hope it's helpful. Taking a shower or bath, one of the It might sound easier. Showers might be easier. Sometimes I love taking a bath. Sometimes I just don't have time. So showers are great for me too. I love to shower at the end of the day to just rinse all the stuff off of me from the day. Engaging in positive self-talk and not comparing yourself. One of the biggest things that I hear from my clients and that we work on is self-talk, because the things that we say to ourselves, they can fill us up or they can bring us down. And a lot of times with my clients, I will have them like do stickies around the house or around their mirror or whatever. First thing in the morning, they're filling up their cup with some positive self-talk, like just like you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're witty, you're bright. Um, my clients tell me that that little tidbit of information has changed many of their lives. And it does help them with not comparing themselves to other people. Um, Taking time to breathe. We're going to do some breath work in a second. Alone time, exercising, running, walking, lifting weights, going to church, attending a spiritual community, support groups. I told you I would make a plug for support groups. Form Families Forward has some of the best support groups for this community of caregivers: adoptive, foster, kinship caregivers. If you haven't checked out their website, please do, right? And Stacia mentioned the Spring Forward event that's coming up in April. If you all can get to that event, I will say we have a lot of events, different events throughout the year. The Spring Forward is probably the largest event, probably the most well attended event. Um, and what I love about that event is it gives caregivers a chance to take care of themselves. They get to go to workshops and the like. And I think there are some CEUs that are attached to that. And I know that for, I think, adoptive and foster care families, you do have to do a certain amount of continuing education credits. Um, so, just a plug for that as well. And then also, they have support groups for you to share with people that are like you, that are going through similar things to you, so you don't feel so alone walking this journey. Getting good sleep and eating well, that's a given. We know that. It can be life changing for us. Asking for help and respite. One of the things I didn't mention with Dennis is that in upstate New York, um, I, as a caregiver, was able to get up to 10 hours of respite a month. I think that there are respite programs here in Virginia as well. And that was a lifesaver for me because it gave me a chance to just be, and not have to be a caregiver. Told you about praying. Praying is so important to me. I'm going to end with crying because, as you saw from the very beginning of this presentation, I am an emotional person. I yeah, I have a high level of emotional intelligence, and if I don't let some of the feelings out, they just build up. And crying is just such a good way of releasing some of the things that we can get caught up in as caregivers. Crying, asking for help, letting go, ugly crying, right? Ugly crying. These are all important things to me, and I think that they're extremely important for caregivers. Next slide. Okay. So we are nearing the end of this presentation, and we can't pour from an empty cup. So please do things to spark joy. Take time to clear your mind. Have a grateful heart. Give yourself a positive pep talk. Please take care of yourself for sure. So, just quickly, I want to ask, how do you engage in self-care? And we'll do a short period of time. Please feel free to respond. And then I'd like to go through quick breathing exercise before I open up the floor for Q&A. And if we don't get many responses, I'm going to jump into the exercise. There we go. Getting alone with God and breathing. I spend time in my Bible and prayer and with my spouse. Meditation and music. Learning or playing music or listening and playing music. Sorry about that. Learning too. Praying a lot. Love the praying a lot. That would be me. All right. Um, in the essence of time, Stacia, I got another response. It was staying positive. I wanted to go into the breathing exercise and then I want to open the floor. Thanks. All right. So what I'd like to do, we're going to do a really quick breathing body scan. I don't know if you all know what that is. It's just like breathing and relaxing a body part, and we're going to go from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet. And if I'm going to invite you, some people are anxious about body scan meditation. So I want you to do whatever feels comfortable for you. If you feel like you just want to breathe right now and listen to my voice, that's okay too. You can do whatever you need to do to honor your body, mind, soul, spirit. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just take a moment and relax. Get as relaxed as you can. If you're in a chair, feet flat on the floor. If you're laying down, that's okay too. And I want us to start with taking a nice deep breath in and release. And I'm going to invite you to take another deep breath in. And this time, when we take a nice deep breath in, I want you to breathe into the count of three, right? So breathe in 1, 2, 3, in, release 2, 3, in. And then as you're breathing in, I know a lot of instruction. Please, I want you to think about peace, right? So I want you to breathe into the count of three, peace. And then when we release, we're going to release any anxiety, stress, any buildup inside of us, anything that's causing any level of discomfort. We're going to release that. So breathe in to the count of three. Peace. And we're going to release any stress or anxiety. We're going to start with the top of our head. So from the top of our head, we're going to just breathe in peace, and we're going to feel that peace as we continue to breathe into the count of three and release any stress. And we're going to feel that peace. It's starting at the top of our head and it's moving down our face, down the back of our head, over our ears, into our neck area, into our shoulders. As we breathe in peace, and we release any stress, any unhealthy feelings, any anxiety. And as we continue to breathe in peace to the count of three, we're going to breathe in peace from our neck, shoulders, down our arms, breathing in peace into our hands. Breathing in peace and releasing all anxiety. And as we continue to breathe in peace and we release anxiety to the count of three, we're going to feel that peace and anxiety release, move through our body. So breathe in peace as we move peace down through our chest, into our stomach, down our back, into our hip area, into our stomach and hips and thighs. We feel that peace going through our body, and we're releasing as we release all anxiety. And as we continue to breathe in peace and release anxiety, we're feeling that peace move from our hip area into the thighs, down our knees, down our legs, into our feet and into our toes. As we breathe in peace and we release all anxiety. And as we continue to breathe in peace and release that anxiety, we're going to breathe in peace one more time. And our entire body is covered in peace right now. And we're letting go of all anxiety and negative feelings from the top of our head to the bottom of our feet. And when we're ready, we're going to rub our thighs. We're going to start feeling our fingers, moving our fingers and toes, and we're going to open our eyes. I'm Dr. Monique Velacos. I want to thank you all for being with me today to talk about some self-care. And thank you for listening to my story. It's always nice to be able to share with a group of caregivers the challenges of being a kinship caregiver, a caregiver, a person. And at this time, I'd like to open it up. You can go to the next slide, Stacia, to questions. Questions, thoughts, feelings.